In doing a hypothesis test with a normally distributed variable, we have a critical value, which would be to the right of the mean if it's a right-tail test, or to the left of the mean if it's a left-tail test. And the area outside of that critical value is alpha, which is our level of significance. Now, if our test value lands outside in the tail beyond the critical value, then we reject the null hypothesis. The area outside of the test value is the p-value. Alpha is the area under the curve outside of the critical value. So if the test value is in the rejection region, that would make the p-value less than alpha. However, if we have a situation where we have a critical value and then a test value that is not in the rejection region, then we can see that the p-value would be greater than alpha. In this case, we would not reject the null hypothesis. When the p-value is less than alpha, then we would reject the null hypothesis. So we're going to try to determine what we have here in this situation. Use the information given below to find the p-value. Also, use a 0.05 significance level and state the conclusion about the null hypothesis. Reject the null hypothesis or fail to reject the null hypothesis. The test statistic in a left-tailed test is z equals minus 1.43. So we're told then that z test is minus 1.43. We know that alpha is 0.05. We're told that in the problem. So now what we need to do is use StatCrunch to find the p-value. So we'll push StatCrunch, and then we'll push Stat, Calculators, Normal. Now, we have a left-tailed test. So we'll leave the mean at 0, the standard deviation at 1, and find the probability that x is less than or equal to minus 1.43. And that probability is 0.0764 when we round to 4 decimal places. And that is the p-value, the area out in the tail. So we'll type in 0.0764. Now it says state the conclusion about the null hypothesis. Choose the correct answer. Now what we found is that the p-value is greater than alpha. Now that can only happen if the test statistic is not in the critical region or in the rejection region. So in this case, we do not reject the null hypothesis. So we look at our choices. Fail to reject the null hypothesis. The p-value is less than the level of significance. That's not right. The p-value is greater than the level of significance. These next two say to reject the null hypothesis. Well, we've just determined that we're not going to reject the null hypothesis. Failed to reject the null hypothesis. The p-value is greater than the level of significance. So this is our selection. Check our answer.